Beloved chosen one, heaven pauses for you right now. The world around you rushes on, but in this moment, the Spirit of God whispers your name. You have scrolled, you have searched, you have wrestled through thoughts that told you it's over, but this is divine interruption. You are not reading these words by coincidence. You are being pursued by purpose. You are being found by the very voice that called creation into being. Listen closely. You have been tired, haven't you? The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that lives in your soul, whispering that maybe it would be easier to stop trying. But God says, you were not meant to give up. I'm not done. Heaven has watched you survive battles no one saw. You've smiled through storms that should have broken you. You have carried weights that others walked away from. And still, here you are. That's proof that divine hands have held you even when you couldn't feel them. You thought you were forgotten, but in truth, you were hidden. You thought you were delayed, but you were being developed. Every storm was a classroom, every heartbreak, a refining fire. When you cried in the silence of night, heaven was not ignoring you, it was preparing you. Your tears were not wasted, they were watering the ground for your next season. You thought the silence meant absence, but silence was the sound of strategy. Heaven was building strength in your unseen places. Every unanswered prayer was a seed planted in faith, waiting for the right divine season to bloom in power. Even when you felt abandoned, angels stood guard around your weary heart. You couldn't see them, but they covered you through every restless night, whispering courage into your spirit. That unseen protection was proof that heaven had not walked away. The pain that once felt purposeless is now your prophecy. The fire that tried to consume you became the altar where your faith was refined. What once broke you now builds you, shaping the warrior God always saw in you, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." That is you, chosen one. You are not meant to crawl through life. You are destined to soar. Every time you fell and rose again, heaven was engraving resilience into your spirit. You carry a strength this world cannot measure. You've wondered why the battles are so heavy. It's because your calling is weighty. The enemy doesn't attack the ordinary. He attacks the anointed. You were never meant to blend in. You are the light that terrifies darkness. You are the one heaven trusts to carry hope into hopeless places. When everyone else gave up, you kept holding on, even if your grip was weak. God saw that. That's why He sent this word now to remind you He's not finished with your story. The chapter you are in may look painful, but it's not the conclusion. It's the turning page before the victory. God is still writing, still orchestrating, still redeeming. The delay you feel is not punishment, it's precision. Heaven is aligning details you cannot yet see. And yes, you've asked, why me? God, but if you could see what He's building through your endurance, you'd understand. Every disappointment is being recycled into destiny. Every unanswered prayer is becoming a foundation stone for something greater. Do not let despair write your ending. You were never designed to quit. There's divine breath filling your lungs again, courage awakening in your bones, and light breaking through the cracks of your heart. This moment is sacred. Heaven is saying, rise again. The story isn't finished. Chosen one. This is your confirmation that dream still has breath. That purpose still lives. What God started, He will finish. You are not behind. You are in process. You are being positioned for the kind of breakthrough that changes generations. Feel the shift. That heaviness lifting off your shoulders is not imagination, it's divine release. Grace is stepping in where strength ran out. Hope is returning to your heart like sunrise after a long night. So don't silence your faith now. Don't stop believing now. You're standing at the doorway of renewal. This moment, this very moment, is heaven knocking on the walls of your doubt, saying, let me in. Let me finish what I began. Beloved, lift your eyes. Your story will not end in ashes. You will rise, renewed, restored, and radiant with glory. Heaven has not changed its mind about you. God is not done, He is only just beginning. If this word touched your spirit, take a moment to let heaven know you're ready. Like, share, and comment 77 below as a prophetic act of agreement. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss what heaven is releasing next. Your comeback starts now. Chosen one. Heaven saw the nights you could not sleep, the ones where your chest felt too tight from the weight of all that went wrong. You hid it well, the trembling, the ache, the quiet pleading in the dark, but heaven never missed it. Every sigh was a prayer, every tear, a message carried to the throne of mercy. You thought no one noticed, but God did. He counted the tears that fell silently on your pillow and stored them as promises of restoration. You've walked through seasons where your strength felt like smoke, present for a moment and then gone. You smiled when your heart was breaking. You showed up when your spirit was collapsing. You kept loving when love was not returned. You carried others while no one carried you. But today, the Spirit of the Lord reminds you nothing you have endured will be wasted. Every wound, every waiting, every moment of confusion will soon reveal divine meaning. There were moments when despair whispered, "You are forgotten," but it lied. You were never forgotten, you were being refined. The pain you faced was not proof of God's absence, but evidence of His investment. You are a vessel too valuable to remain untested. He allowed the shaking to strengthen your foundation. He let the storm rage so that when peace came, you would know who commanded it. Remember, the greatest trees are those that weather the fiercest winds. Your roots have gone deep into faith because the surface broke open. What you thought was the end was only the moment heaven decided to rebuild from the ground up. The cracks in your heart were not your collapse, they were where light began to enter. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 19, "The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights." That is who you are becoming, one who climbs when others give up. One who finds footing on steep cliffs where others slip. The same God who carried David through caves and Daniel through lions now walks beside you. You are not merely surviving, you are ascending. Heaven is shaping resilience within you, layer by layer, until what once broke you becomes your greatest testimony. Beloved, understand, this pain does not define you. It refines you. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. Every setback has been a hidden setup for breakthrough. When your plans failed, it was because His were better. When the door closed, It was because it did not lead to destiny. When the people left, it was because they could not go where you are going. You are entering a chapter where divine alignment will replace human approval. You may not see it yet, but grace is working behind the curtains of your life. You are being repositioned. The very chaos that tried to drown you is becoming the current that will carry you into promise. Trust this process, even when you cannot trace it. God's silence does not mean absence, it often means preparation. The teacher is quiet when the test is being written. The enemy wanted you to break under the weight, but you didn't. You bent. Yes, but you did not break. That is evidence that the Spirit of the living God sustains you. The same breath that spoke galaxies into motion breathes endurance into your soul. That's why you are still here. That's why you are still standing. Because heaven has declared it is not over. Don't despise the days of darkness. Even stars are born in it. Don't curse the waiting. It's where faith is formed. Don't let your heart grow bitter while heaven is making it better. Let go of what you cannot control, and trust the one who holds galaxies in his palm, yet still knows your name. Every breath you take is proof that purpose remains. Every sunrise is heaven whispering, "Try again." You were not called to collapse under the weight, you were chosen to carry glory through it. God has placed something inside you that refuses to die. That is why, no matter how low you fall, something in you still reaches upward. That is the divine spark. That is his fingerprint. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are seen, chosen, refined, and being made ready for what is coming. The pain that once felt unbearable will soon be the evidence that you were built for endurance. You are stronger than you know, because the strength you carry is not your own. It is divine. Beloved, breathe. Let peace return to you. Heaven is near. The same God who saw you cry will soon cause you to sing. The same God who allowed you to walk through valleys will now lead you to mountaintops. The story is shifting, even if the scenery has not yet changed. Chosen one, hold steady. You will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. What is written over you cannot be erased. You were not meant to give up, you were meant to rise. Chosen one, the darkness has whispered to you for too long. It told you that you were alone, that heaven turned its face away, that your prayers fell unheard into an empty sky. You have walked through seasons where God felt silent, where the promises seemed delayed, where hope flickered like a dying flame. But hear this now, silence is not abandonment. The quiet of heaven is often the sound of divine construction. When the enemy said, "You are forgotten," God was working. When despair said, "You are finished," heaven whispered, "I'm just beginning." There are battles you fought that no one knows about, spiritual wars waged behind your smile, tears hidden behind strength, questions buried beneath faith. And yet, through it all, you never stopped believing completely. Even when your faith was faint, it was faith enough for God to move. The Spirit sees the loneliness that crept into your heart, the moments you asked, "Where are you, Lord?" the times you felt unworthy to ask again. But today, God breaks the lie of distance. His nearness is not a feeling, it is a truth. His silence does not mean absence, it means He's speaking through deeper layers, through process, through pain, through patience. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." That stillness isn't weakness, it's worship. Stillness says, I trust even when I can't trace. Stillness says, God, you have fought before, and you will fight again. Your battle is not proof of rejection, it's proof of purpose. If darkness has pressed in this hard, it's because something powerful is about to emerge from your life. You see, the enemy doesn't pursue the silent or the shallow, he chases the chosen. You have been marked by heaven, and hell knows it. That's why the attacks have been relentless. That's why the pressure has been high. But pressure births diamonds, and God has been shaping brilliance from the roughness of your trials. Every unanswered prayer is a setup for revelation. Every delayed breakthrough is collecting momentum behind unseen doors. You feel weary because your spirit is on the edge of something new. Heaven is closer than it appears. There's a strange beauty in the waiting. It purifies motives. It humbles pride. It strips away illusion. In the silence, you learn to hear God not in thunder, but in whispers. You discover that His love is not proven by immediate answers, but by His unbroken presence. Chosen one, when you look back, you'll see that the moments you called abandonment were actually moments of alignment. The doors that closed protected you. The people who left freed you. The silence that hurt prepared you. You may have asked, God, where are you? But in truth, He was standing right beside you, letting the darkness reveal the light inside you. His delay was not disinterest, it was development. He was training your spirit to see beyond emotion. He was strengthening you for the weight of the promise to come. You are being built into a warrior who trusts, not just when it's easy, but when it's dark. You are learning to praise even when the outcome is unseen. That is maturity. That is faith in its purest form. So breathe. Chosen one, heaven is not punishing you, heaven is preparing you. The Father has not forgotten your name, He has engraved it on His palm. Every day that you keep walking, even with trembling legs, is proof that grace still flows through you. And now, as you read these words, the Spirit stirs again within you. The same voice that called Lazarus from the tomb calls your hope from the grave. The same hands that lifted Peter from the waves are lifting you now. This is not your end, this is your awakening. There will come a day when all that was confusing will make sense. You will look back and realize that heaven was present in every silence, that every not yet was mercy, and every wait was love. The darkness you endured will become the testimony that lights someone else's path. Your heart may still ache, but even that ache is holy. It means you still care, still believe, still hope, and that hope is sacred. Hope is heaven's proof that the story continues. So, as this word reaches your heart, take a moment to do something prophetic, a small act of faith that declares, I still believe. Comment, God sees me, because He truly does. He sees you when no one else notices, hears you when no one else listens, strengthens you when no one else can. That short phrase is not just a comment, it's a confession. It's your declaration that even when your eyes cannot see Him, you know He sees you. Write it as a seed of faith, a public reminder to your future self that you refuse to surrender in the silence. Every word you type in faith echoes in eternity, and heaven records the ones who choose to believe even when the evidence is thin. The silence is ending. The storm is settling. The voice of the Lord is returning, and He's saying, be still, my child. I am fighting for you. Chosen one. The fire you've been walking through was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to define you. You have wondered why the heat has been so intense, why the tests have been so constant, why the people you trusted drifted away when you needed them most. It is because you are being refined, shaped in a furnace that turns ordinary vessels into vessels of honor. Every trial has been a flame with a purpose. The moments that made you weep were actually moments heaven used to wash away everything that could not stay in your next season. The pain purified your motives. The betrayal birthed discernment. The loneliness sharpened your hearing. And though it burned, it also built something within you that no comfort ever could endurance. When you walk through the fire, the smell of smoke will not cling to you. For what is being burned away is not your destiny, but your dependency on things that were never meant to hold you. The Spirit of God has been forging within you a new strength, one that cannot be shaken by the approval or rejection of man. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy. Chapter 8, verse 2. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. That is what this season has been, a wilderness meant not to punish you but to prepare you. You have been tested, not for God to discover your faith, but for you to discover his faithfulness. When everything familiar disappeared, you found that his presence never did. When the ground beneath you shook, you learned to stand on his word alone. There is a beauty to refinement that only those who have endured it understand. The wilderness strips away what is false. It reveals what truly matters. It teaches you that joy isn't the absence of struggle, but the presence of God in the midst of it. It reminds you that peace is not found in the outcome, but in the one who governs the outcome. Chosen one, you have asked, when will this end? But God asks you, what is being born in you while it continues? For something eternal is forming within you. Patience, compassion, wisdom, a heart that beats in rhythm with heaven's mercy. These qualities cannot be taught in ease. They are forged in fire. You are being purified from fear. The flame exposes it, melts it down, replaces it with courage. You are being freed from needing validation, because the fire teaches you that divine approval outweighs every earthly opinion. You are being refined until you reflect the image of the one who called you. Think of gold. It is beautiful when found, but it becomes radiant only when purified. The heat reveals its true worth. So it is with you. The pain that once threatened to undo you has instead revealed what was always inside: unshakable faith. The very circumstances that tried to break you have become the evidence that you were built from eternal material. In the quiet of your trial, heaven has been near. The refining fire was never abandonment, it was intimacy. God trusted you with the furnace because he knew you could handle it. He knew that on the other side of the flames would stand someone who no longer bows to fear, no longer compromises calling, no longer doubts divine goodness. Even when you questioned his timing, he was working through the delay. Even when you screamed for rescue, he was strengthening your wings for flight. Even when you thought the fire was too much, he whispered, I am with you in the flames. Beloved, the purpose of fire is transformation. The version of you that entered it is not the one who will emerge. You will come out lighter, clearer, stronger, glowing with the reflection of glory. What others call suffering, heaven calls sanctification. What you see as breaking, Heaven sees as birthing. Hold your head high in the heat. Do not mistake the smoke for defeat. You are passing through, not perishing in it. This season will not consume you. It will crown you. The same fire that tried to burn you will become the light that guides others out. Chosen one, lift your eyes. This fire is the last phase before fullness. Soon, you will look back and understand that this was never about loss. It was about becoming. The flames are fierce because your destiny burns brighter. And when you emerge, you will carry a testimony that says, I walked through the fire, and God walked with me. Chosen one, you have learned that heaven's clock does not tick like the clocks of men. You have prayed and waited, hoped and wondered why answers seemed delayed. You have watched others rise while you stood still, feeling forgotten in the waiting room of destiny. But listen carefully, delay is not denial. It is divine design. God's timing is not slow, it is sacred. The pauses are holy. The waiting is where miracles germinate. Seeds do not sprout the day they are planted. They rest beneath the surface, hidden, surrounded by darkness, watered by tears, and nourished by unseen grace. So it is with you. Beneath the soil of stillness, something is stirring. Heaven's hand is moving in quiet precision, aligning every detail that must fall into place before the promise blooms. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 27, verse 14, Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Waiting is not wasted time, it is preparation time. Like a sculptor chiseling marble, God has been shaping your heart to carry what's coming. He delays not to deny, but to refine. He holds back certain blessings until your spirit is strong enough to sustain them. A blessing released too soon can crush rather than crown. So he waits. And in his waiting, he works. Imagine a painter standing before a vast canvas. To the untrained eye, it looks unfinished. A few strokes here, a shadow there. But the artist sees the final masterpiece already formed in his mind. Every delay between brush strokes has purpose. Every pause adds depth. You, beloved, are that canvas. Heaven's artist has not abandoned his work. He's layering color, tone, and brilliance. When he's finished, the picture will make sense. You have been standing between what was and what will be. That space is sacred. It's the hallway between answered prayers, the interval between sowing and harvest. It feels lonely, yet it's full of divine activity. While you wait, heaven arranges the meeting places, the open doors, the healed hearts that will align with your calling. Chosen one, do not confuse delay with distance. When God pauses, it's because His mercy is precise. You might want something now, but He wants you whole first. You might be pleading for the outcome, but He's protecting you from the shortcut. He loves you too deeply to let you settle for something smaller than His best. The oak tree waits longer in the soil than the flower, but its roots run deeper, and its strength lasts for generations. You are not being delayed, you are being deepened. Every season of silence has built spiritual muscle you'll need in the days to come. You have grown in patience, in discernment, in endurance virtues that time alone can birth. Beloved, heaven does not measure time in minutes, but in meaning. When the appointed moment arrives, what took years of waiting will manifest in a single breath. One yes from heaven can redeem decades of delay. One open door can rewrite your entire story. So stay steadfast. The slow work of God is still holy work. And, as you stand in faith, remember you are part of a divine mission larger than your pain. Messages like this one are sent to remind the weary that they are not forgotten, to speak light into souls who scroll through shadows. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm, you are releasing ripples of hope into someone else's storm. Your engagement becomes a small act of ministry, a digital candle placed in a stranger's night. If your heart feels stirred and you wish to help this voice continue reaching more chosen ones, even your smallest offering, your time, your share, your donation becomes a seed of compassion, like a drop of oil poured into a lamp. It keeps the flame burning for those still searching in darkness. The goal has never been numbers, it has always been souls. So, as you wait for your miracle, sow kindness into someone else's field. Heaven sees every click, every word of encouragement. Every moment you lift another through generosity, it becomes worship. It says to heaven, I trust you enough to give while I'm still waiting. This is the rhythm of divine timing. Give while you wait. Praise while you're unsure. Love while it costs you. The same God who receives your offering will multiply it in unseen ways. Chosen one, the delays are almost over. The page is turning. Soon you'll realize why you had to wait, because heaven was arranging the story so that when your breakthrough arrived, no one could take the glory but God. The waiting wasn't empty, it was pregnant with destiny. So, stand still in grace. Hold the line of faith. The season that once felt endless will soon unfold into everything He promised. You will see that the waiting was not punishment, it was protection. He's not late. He's on time, divine time. Chosen one. Something is shifting in the unseen. You may not feel it yet, but heaven is rearranging things on your behalf. Doors that were once sealed are beginning to tremble on their hinges. Conversations are being spoken in rooms where your name is mentioned with favor. The things that once resisted you are now being softened by divine command. You are standing at the edge of divine intervention. The season that looked still is about to stir. The ground beneath your waiting is starting to move. Just as the earth quivers before a seed breaks through the soil, what once appeared barren is carrying hidden life. You are about to witness what happens when heaven decides. Now is the time. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 26, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Beloved, this is the heartbeat of your season possibility, not human possibility, but divine. What logic cannot do, favor will. What effort cannot fix, grace will. You are stepping into a period where obedience will open what talent, money, or influence never could. For months, perhaps years, it has felt like heaven was quiet. But heaven's silence is often followed by sudden sound. Just as thunder follows lightning, so will manifestation follow your perseverance. You have held on longer than most would have, and that is why your reward will be greater. The delay was not proof that God forgot you. It was proof that He was working details too complex to rush. Sometimes the greatest miracles are not loud, they start with whispers. A small opportunity, a divine meeting, a single message that shifts everything. The Spirit of the Lord is saying that what seemed small will multiply quickly. You are being moved from obscurity to visibility, from preparation to purpose, from testing to testimony. The struggle that once made you question everything was never a punishment, it was a transition. You've been shifting dimensions in silence, learning to hear God in deeper frequencies. The opposition you faced wasn't random, it was resistance to your next level. Every battle was a border between where you were and where you're going. And now you are crossing over. Feel it, the air is different. Heaven is closer than before. Your spirit senses something new, though you cannot name it yet. That's because God has begun the unfolding. The divine narrative is advancing. Even if the scenery hasn't yet changed, what's happening inside you will soon manifest around you. Chosen one. This is not coincidence, this is confirmation. Every sign that once seemed random was part of a larger pattern only heaven could weave. The delay had purpose. The detours had meaning. The disappointments were disguises for redirection. When Joseph was thrown into the pit, he didn't realize it was the path to the palace. When Moses was exiled to the desert, he didn't know it was training for deliverance. When Ruth gleaned behind others, she didn't know her Boaz watched from afar. And when you walked through loss, pain, and silence, you didn't know heaven was setting the stage for divine unveiling. You've cried enough tears for a lifetime. You've questioned your worth, your calling, your strength. But God says the season of surviving is over. You are stepping into the season of thriving. The things that once drained you will now serve you. The people who once doubted you will watch in awe. What once looked like the end will become evidence that grace still writes better stories. Do not underestimate what heaven can do in a single act of obedience. Sometimes, all he needs is a yes. You may feel unqualified, unready, or unsure, but those are the exact ingredients for a miracle. Heaven specializes in using the ordinary to display the extraordinary. Chosen one, as a prophetic sign of alignment. Write this in faith. Comment 444 below. That number represents divine intervention and open doors, the moment when heaven steps into your story and rearranges everything in your favor. It's not about digits, it's about declaration. When you type it, you're saying, God, I trust your timing. I welcome your movement. I align with heaven's order. This act isn't superstition, it's surrender. It's you agreeing with what heaven is already orchestrating. When faith and declaration meet, miracles manifest. Even now, angels are moving. Situations that have been stagnant for years are beginning to shake. Someone reading these words will soon testify that what once looked impossible suddenly became easy. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. Breathe. Beloved, this is the sound of divine acceleration. The waiting is ending. The season is shifting. You are not behind, you are right on time. Heaven delayed you to preserve you. And now that the alignment is complete, you will walk through doors that were previously locked. Not by force, but by favor. The same God who promised to part seas still parts impossibilities today. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. That means what's impossible around you must submit to the power within you. Chosen one. Divine intervention is not coming, it has begun. Chosen one. There is a war no one sees, not around you, but within you. The war between what your spirit knows and what your eyes see. the tension between your divine assignment and your human exhaustion. You are tired not because you are weak, but because you are carrying something weighty, something holy. The spiritual battle you feel inside is the evidence of heaven's trust in you. There are days when you wake up with courage, ready to believe again, and others when even breathing feels like effort. You've asked, why can't I just be like everyone else? Why must I always wrestle this deeply? It's because you were never meant for shallow waters. You are built for depth. The intensity you feel is the mark of those chosen to shift atmospheres, to carry burdens that others cannot bear. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair." That verse is not just ancient poetry, it is the rhythm of your life. You have been pressed, yet you're still standing. You have been confused, yet you have not collapsed. You are proof that divine strength does not look like never falling, it looks like rising again after every fall. The war inside you is not punishment, it is process. God is teaching you to master your emotions without losing your empathy. He's showing you how to stand in peace even when storms surround you. You've been learning that faith isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. This inner battle has been your classroom. Every wave of anxiety has taught you trust. Every season of doubt has deepened your dependence. You have learned to distinguish the voice of God from the noise of fear. You have discovered that peace isn't always a feeling. Sometimes it's a choice made in trembling hands. Chosen one, when your thoughts race, when your spirit feels heavy, remember, this is what it means to carry light into darkness. Light does not fight for permission to shine, it simply does. And you are that light. The turmoil you feel is not failure. It's friction, the tension that happens when glory begins to awaken inside fragile flesh. There is a divine rhythm to your warfare. Just as a heartbeat alternates between contraction and release, your spirit moves between stillness and struggle. Both are sacred. Both are necessary. The contractions of your pain are birthing new dimensions of purpose. You are not breaking down, you are giving birth to greater clarity, greater compassion, greater conviction. Sometimes, the loudest battlefield is your own mind, thoughts that accuse you, fears that haunt you, memories that try to anchor you in the past. Yet, even here, God fights for you. He stands in the middle of your mental chaos, declaring peace over every storm. The very moments you think you're losing ground are often the ones where grace holds you the tightest. You may not see the progress, but heaven does. Every time you choose forgiveness instead of bitterness, you win. Every time you pray instead of panic, you win. Every time you speak faith when fear shouts loud, you win. Those small decisions are victories written in eternity's ink. The war within has made you wiser. You've learned that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's silent resilience. You've discovered that peace can exist even in pressure, that hope can whisper louder than despair. You've realized that your scars don't disqualify you, they identify you as someone who has seen battle and still believes. Chosen one, you are learning to fight from victory, not for it. You are no longer striving to earn God's approval, you are learning to rest in His affection. The inner conflict is teaching you that true authority is not found in control, but in surrender. And even when the war feels unending, know this peace is already promised. You are not fighting alone. Every prayer you've whispered in weariness has reached the heart of God. Every sigh has been interpreted by heaven as a call for strength. The Spirit Himself intercedes for you in groans deeper than words. So, when your thoughts feel like waves, anchor yourself again in His truth. When fear rises, speak faith. When doubt whispers, remember who you are, not a mistake, not forgotten, but chosen, refined, and deeply loved. The war within is not your weakness, it is your witness. It shows the world that even in chaos, the light of heaven still burns in you. And one day soon, when this season ends, you will realize that the struggle that tried to destroy you actually trained you to reign. Hold your peace. Beloved, the battle is fierce, but victory is already written in your favor. Chosen one, there comes a point in every divine journey where what looks like the breaking point is actually the birthing point. You have felt it, that moment when everything collapses, when prayers go unanswered, when your strength feels like dust. You stand in the ruins of plans that once felt certain and wonder, how can this possibly be God's plan? But what if this collapse is not destruction, but construction in disguise? What if the ashes are the soil for resurrection? It is in this sacred breaking that God begins His greatest work. You have been stretched beyond comfort, pressed beyond reason, and yet something inside you refuses to die. That something is not stubbornness, it is purpose. Purpose cannot be killed, it only transforms. The breaking was never about loss, it was about revealing what could not be broken. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 34, verse 18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That verse is not a soft promise, it's a declaration of divine nearness. God draws closest not to the proud or powerful, but to those whose hearts are shattered into pieces. The cracks become entry points for His presence. He doesn't rebuild you the same, He rebuilds you better, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Beloved, you have been walking through what feels like the valley of endings. Friendships faded, opportunities closed. The path ahead went dark. You thought you had failed, but heaven saw it differently. To God, it was not an ending, it was an unfolding. The seed must break before it grows. The cocoon must tear before the butterfly emerges. The night must deepen before dawn appears. The pain you have felt was a form of holy pressure. God was pressing the old out of you to make room for the new. He allowed certain things to crumble so that your foundation would finally rest on Him alone. You thought He was stripping you, but He was securing you. You thought He was silent, but He was shaping. There's something sacred about being broken in God's hands. The world discards what breaks, but heaven collects it. The fragments of your heart are not wasted. They are being used to form something new. You are not less because you've been shattered. You are more because you've been touched by the healer. Look at your journey. The pain that once seemed unbearable has softened your heart toward others. You understand suffering now, not as a curse, but as a teacher. You see through eyes that notice the wounded. You speak with a voice that carries empathy. The crushing birthed compassion. The breaking gave you depth. And that's what God wanted all along, not perfection, but depth. A heart that bleeds for what breaks His. A faith that still whispers, "I trust you," through tears. A spirit that knows resurrection because it has tasted death. Chosen one, don't despise your breaking. Heaven chose it carefully. It was never punishment, it was preparation. You are being molded into someone who can carry healing for others. The same God who allowed your heart to break will now use your story to mend hearts around you. The ache you feel is evidence that something holy is being born through you. There is beauty in the aftermath of surrender. When you finally stop fighting the breaking and let it do its work, peace arrives quietly. Like sunlight creeping into a darkened room. It doesn't erase the pain, it redeems it. Suddenly, what once felt like loss begins to look like liberation. You begin to thank God, not for the hurt, but for what it produced in you. Every tear, every disappointment, every lonely night, they were midwives of transformation. They helped deliver you into greater strength and greater surrender. You are no longer the same person who entered the fire. The fear has loosened its grip. The doubt has lost its power. And the pain has turned into wisdom. Soon, others will look at you and see light where they expected ashes. They'll ask, "How did you survive that?" And you'll answer, "I didn't. Grace carried me." Because that's the truth. You didn't make it out by chance. You made it out because heaven refused to let go of you. Chosen one, your breaking is not your end. It is your beginning. The story is being rewritten even now. What once wounded you will one day be the very testimony that sets others free. So, breathe. Let go of the fear that this pain will last forever. It won't. God does not waste pain. He transforms it. Every scar will one day shine as evidence that you survived the storm and became the light for someone else's night. Your breaking has become your birthing, and heaven calls it beautiful. Chosen one, when the storm quiets and the dust of your trials begins to settle, there comes a whisper soft, steady, unmistakably divine. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply says, "Rise." That whisper doesn't come from outside. It comes from deep within you. The part of you that never died, no matter how fierce the battle became. It's the echo of your Creator calling you back to purpose. You've endured seasons where everything was noise, chaos in your mind, confusion in your spirit, exhaustion in your body. You wondered if you'd ever hear God clearly again. But now, as the waves begin to calm, clarity returns, the static fades, and His voice emerges not as a distant sound, but as a truth that fills every part of your being. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 33, verse 3, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." That is what this moment is, heaven's response to your quiet cry. You thought your prayers were lost in the wind, but they were being woven into timing. The delay was never denial, it was divine orchestration. God waited for the right silence, the right posture of your heart, before speaking again. Now, in this stillness, His voice begins to instruct you. It tells you that everything you lost will return transformed. The closed doors will open, not the same ones, but better ones. The people who left were not rejection, but redirection, and the pain that tried to bury you was only the soil for resurrection. You are stepping into a season where divine direction will come, like the morning light, soft but unmistakable. You'll begin to sense when to move, when to pause, when to speak, and when to stay silent. The confusion that once clouded your spirit is lifting because the One who made you is reawakening your discernment. Chosen one, do not underestimate the whispers. God rarely shouts. He speaks to those who lean in. His voice isn't always in the thunder, but in the still small sound that says, "Keep walking, keep trusting, I am still here." When Elijah hid in the cave, exhausted and afraid, it wasn't the earthquake or the fire that carried God's presence, it was the whisper. That same whisper calls you now, not to run, but to rise. The war is not over, but your spirit is being renewed. You are learning to hear again, to dream again, to hope again. There's a rhythm in your soul that's changing. The frequency of fear is fading, replaced by faith. You're no longer moved by panic, you're moved by purpose. You no longer need loud proof, the whisper is enough. And here's the beauty, once you've learned to recognize that whisper, you can never go back to confusion. You'll walk into rooms and feel His guidance in your chest. You'll face decisions and sense peace pointing the way. That's the mark of someone who has walked through chaos and come out with clarity. But hearing the voice is only the first step. Obeying it is the next. Every instruction from heaven is an invitation to transformation. Sometimes obedience will look strange, even impossible. But each act of obedience is a bridge between where you are and where God is leading you. So when He says, "Forgive," even though it hurts, do it. When He says, "Wait," even when impatience screams, trust it. When He says, "Move," even if the path is unclear, step out. Each time you respond to the whisper, the heavens align more in your favor. Chosen one, this is a holy moment, a turning of seasons, a returning of hearing. You are no longer wandering, you are walking in divine rhythm. Heaven is not silent anymore, it's singing over you. Now, as a sign that you receive this word and align your heart with heaven's whisper, take a moment and write this below. Comment, speak. Lord. Why this phrase? Because it is the ancient posture of listening hearts. It's what young Samuel said when he realized that the voice calling him was God's. It's not just a comment, it's a declaration that says, "I am done running. I am ready to listen." When you type it, do it as worship, not reaction. Let it be your response to heaven's whisper, a signal that your heart is open, your ears are tuned, your will is surrendered. For in that simple confession, you are inviting divine dialogue again. You are saying, "I'm done trying to hear myself louder than I hear you." The days of confusion are ending. The fog is lifting. The shepherd's voice is becoming clear again. Follow it not with fear, but with faith. For the same voice that led you through the valley will now lead you to the mountain. Chosen one, this is the season of divine clarity. The whisper you hear is not imagination, it is instruction. Listen, and you will live by light again. Chosen one, there are seasons when heaven isolates you, not to punish you, but to illuminate you. Loneliness often feels like abandonment, yet in truth, it is an anointing in disguise. You have been asking why the circle grew smaller, why voices faded, why people you trusted seemed to vanish when you needed them most. But listen carefully, God removes noise when He wants to sharpen your hearing. In the silence of isolation, revelation begins. It's in those quiet hours when no one texts, when the house grows still, when the ache of being unseen fills your chest. That's where God whispers secrets too sacred for crowded rooms. You've been wondering, why does it feel like no one understands me? Heaven answers, because I'm teaching you to hear me first. according to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Those words are not a suggestion, they're an invitation. To trust God is to release your grip on certainty. It's choosing to believe that even in silence, He's speaking, even in isolation. He's working. You see, solitude is not emptiness, it's incubation. Think of an artist working on a masterpiece behind closed doors. The canvas doesn't know how it will turn out. It only feels the pressure of each stroke. But when the artist finally steps back, the beauty makes sense. You, beloved, are that canvas. God is painting purpose onto the backdrop of your solitude. When He calls you aside, He's not taking you out of life, He's taking you deeper into it. You are being transformed from a follower of noise into a listener of truth. You are being pulled from crowds so you can be crowned in private. Destiny often develops in quiet corners long before it's displayed on open stages. So, when it feels like you've been forgotten, remember you are being formed. Just as roots grow in darkness before flowers bloom in daylight. Your strength is taking root in unseen places. Heaven hides you only to reveal you at the right time. Chosen one. Understand this: divine isolation isn't rejection. It's redirection. God hides His most precious vessels until they're ready to pour. The delay in recognition is the protection of your preparation. What feels like stillness is actually strategy. And while you wait, know that every word spoken here, every story told, every truth declared, is not crafted to entertain, it's designed to awaken. This space, this voice, this message exists to remind the weary that they are not walking alone. If these words have ever found you in your night and lit even a spark of hope, then know that they are part of your divine alignment. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're extending a bridge. You are helping these words reach another soul who's standing where you once stood, in the quiet ache of waiting. In the hidden classroom of isolation, every act of engagement becomes a ripple of light in someone else's darkness. And for those who feel led to give, even the smallest gift becomes oil for the lamp. It keeps the flame alive, so more broken hearts can find their way home through these messages. Your offering isn't about transaction, it's participation. It's saying, I want to be part of keeping hope alive, like the widow who gave her last drop of oil. Your generosity, however small, carries eternal value. It fuels the mission of reaching more chosen ones who are still searching for their confirmation, their reminder, their divine whisper in the middle of silence. Think of it like tending a lighthouse. Each light requires oil to keep shining. Every like, every share, every donation is a drop of oil poured into the flame. You help it stay bright enough to guide those drifting in their storms back toward the shore of faith. Your small act might seem invisible now, but heaven records it. What you give out of sincerity, God multiplies beyond measure. So while you walk through this quiet season, know this: you're not hidden for punishment, you're hidden for purpose. The time will come when the very people who once overlooked you will witness what God was forming in your silence. They will see a glow that wasn't lit by applause but by anointing. Chosen one. You're learning what few understand. Solitude is sacred. It is where strength matures, where roots deepen, where revelation blooms. God doesn't isolate to empty, He isolates to overflow. And when you emerge from this season, You won't come out bitter, you'll come out blazing with clarity, humility, and power. The quiet will end, but the wisdom it gave you will remain forever. So, if this message found you in your own wilderness, hold it close. The stillness isn't a sign that God stopped speaking, it's proof He's preparing to reveal something only solitude could teach you. Chosen one. Deep within you lies something ancient, a mantle that was placed upon your spirit long before you ever drew your first breath. It is not a talent or a title, it is a divine assignment woven into your very being. And, lately, though you've tried to ignore it, it has begun to stir again. You can feel it. Can't you? That restless pull in your soul. That quiet reminder that you were meant for more than survival. The mantle awakens, and heaven begins to call your name once more. You've gone through enough breaking to appreciate rebuilding. You've walked through enough fire to understand refinement. And now, what was dormant begins to breathe. The gifts you buried under disappointment start to rise to the surface. The voice you silenced out of fear begins to find its strength again. You have carried power all along, you just needed to remember. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 11, verse 29, "For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable." That verse, chosen one, is your inheritance. You may have fallen, failed, or wandered, but heaven's assignment on your life never expired. God doesn't revoke what He has entrusted to His chosen ones. The calling waits, patient and persistent, beneath the ashes of pain, ready to rise again when you finally believe that grace can still use you. You've seen enough of life to know that gifts can lie sleeping for years. There are songs inside you that have never been sung, words that have never been spoken, acts of compassion never carried out because fear whispered, "Not you." But fear is a liar. You were not created to be silent. You were created to shift atmospheres, to walk into darkness and cause light to move. You carry a mantle of change, a garment of authority stitched together by every tear and every triumph. When God calls you, He equips you, the same Spirit that anointed David when he was still tending sheep, the same fire that filled Elijah on the mountain, the same boldness that clothed Esther when she stood before kings. That same Spirit rests upon you. You may not feel ready, but calling rarely waits for comfort. It demands courage, not certainty. The awakening of your mantle begins quietly. It may come as restlessness, as an ache to do more, to be more, to return to what once made your soul come alive. It may come as dreams you can't ignore, or moments where divine coincidences begin to cluster around you. Pay attention, those are not random. That is heaven aligning the pieces again. For too long, you've believed that your mistakes disqualified you. But what if the very things you thought ruined you are now the keys to your authority? You have walked through valleys others only read about. You have faced storms that stripped you down to essence. You have learned compassion through pain, patience through delay, wisdom through loss. Those aren't weaknesses, those are weapons. The mantle doesn't rest on the perfect, it rests on the prepared, chosen one. Don't wait for applause to move. The world doesn't crown those who obey heaven. Heaven crowns those who obey regardless of the world. Your mantle is not about status, it's about service. It's not about being seen, it's about being surrendered. True authority is born in hidden obedience, not public recognition. You have been through enough to understand the weight of what's being placed on your shoulders. The mantle is not light. It carries responsibility, compassion, and sacrifice. But it also carries power, the kind that breaks chains, heals hearts, and restores faith. You have been trained in the dark for this very moment. The silence was your classroom. The pain was your preparation. When you begin to walk again in your calling, you will not be the same person you once were. Your steps will carry humility. Your words will carry healing. Your presence will carry peace. People will sense something different, not because of who you are, but because of who walks with you. The mantle you carry is meant to be shared. It's not for display, it's for deliverance. When you speak, speak with love. When you move, move with grace. When you act, act with purpose. Every small obedience becomes a spark that ignites someone else's courage. And know this, heaven is watching. Every act of faith, every whispered prayer, every unseen moment of obedience is recorded in eternity's book. You are stepping into a sacred rhythm now, the place where calling meets character, where destiny meets discipline, where anointing meets action. Chosen one, your mantle is awake. The time of hiding has ended. Step forward, not as the wounded one, but as the restored one. The same hands that broke you have now rebuilt you. You carry the fragrance of survival, the wisdom of wilderness, and the authority of one who has walked through fire and lived. Walk in it, speak in it, live in it. Heaven trusts you with this. Chosen one. There are moments when heaven shifts, not gradually, but suddenly. You sense it before you see it. The air feels different. Time feels thinner. And your spirit knows something unseen has begun to move. That is where you stand now, at the edge of divine transition. The realm of the spirit is stirring, rearranging, aligning. Everything that once stood still begins to flow again. You have been faithful in the dark, patient in the quiet, obedient in the waiting. And now, heaven is responding. The prayers you thought were forgotten have reached maturity. The words you spoke years ago are coming full circle. The season that felt stagnant was secretly strategic. You were not buried, you were planted. And now, what was hidden beneath layers of surrender begins to rise. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, "See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." Chosen one, that new thing is not far away, it has already begun. The shift in the spirit realm is not coming, it is happening. You can feel it in your bones. That sense of divine movement pressing against the edges of your circumstance. You may not see the full picture yet, but signs are beginning to unfold. Divine appointments, unexpected provision, unexplainable peace. Heaven is repositioning you for what you once prayed for. The people, the opportunities, even the detours are aligning to the rhythm of God's plan. You are stepping into a space where favor will move faster than fear, where acceleration will replace hesitation. What once resisted you is now releasing you. What once confined you is now propelling you. You are transitioning from survival to significance. And as you step forward, heaven's atmosphere responds to your faith. Beloved, the Spirit of God is saying, do not cling to the old. The former things, the familiar habits, the broken patterns, the comfort zones that kept you small cannot travel with you where you're going. This new season requires a lighter heart, a freer spirit, and an open hand. You must release what was so you can receive what is coming. The shift doesn't always start with visible miracles. Sometimes it starts with small internal nudges, a sudden conviction, a holy restlessness, a stirring that says, something more exists. That's how heaven prepares the heart before it manifests the harvest. You may feel unprepared for what's next, but that's exactly how you know it's divine. God never transitions you based on readiness. He transitions you based on faith. The shift isn't about your ability, it's about your availability. You just have to say yes. And when you do, the unseen world responds. Angels are dispatched. Paths are cleared. Doors swing open that you never even knocked on. Divine timing begins to unfold like dawn spreading light over the horizon. You don't have to force it, you just have to flow with it. This is the moment to declare alignment, not by might, not by effort, but by faith. So, right now, as a prophetic act of agreement, comment 555 below. That number represents transformation and divine change, heaven's signature on the new chapter of your life. When you type it, you are declaring, I align with heaven's movement. I receive the shift. I welcome the new. It's not about numbers, it's about agreement. It's your spirit saying to heaven, I am ready for what you're doing. You've waited long enough. Chosen one. You've endured the silence, carried the weight, fought the hidden battles. Now the winds of change are blowing. Don't resist them, rise with them. Just as an eagle rides the storm rather than fleeing from it. You are meant to use the winds of transition to ascend higher. The same storms that terrified you will now lift you. The same fire that refined you will now fuel you. The same valleys that humbled you will now testify for you. The shift is not just around you, it is within you. Heaven is rewriting your atmosphere. Peace where there was panic, clarity where there was confusion, favor where there was resistance. The tables are turning, and you are being positioned for divine fulfillment. Chosen one. This is the hour when your preparation meets heaven's acceleration. The no that once broke you will be replaced by a yes that blesses you. The closed doors were not rejection, they were redirection. Everything is moving now, everything is aligning. Lift your head and open your hands. The shift is not a dream, it is destiny manifesting. Step into it with courage. Heaven is already ahead of you, preparing the ground for your arrival. You've endured the shaking, now embrace the shifting. You are walking into newness, and nothing can stop what heaven has already begun. Chosen one. Not all wars are fought with swords or words, some are fought in silence. On the unseen battlefield of the Spirit. There are wars you never told anyone about. Battles you faced in the quiet corners of your heart, where no one clapped for your courage. But heaven saw every moment, every time you refused to quit, every prayer you whispered through trembling lips, every tear you hid from the world. Heaven recorded them as victories. There is a realm beyond what the eyes can see, a dimension where angels move and darkness trembles. You are not just a witness to that world, you are a participant. Your very existence disrupts the plans of the enemy. The attacks against you have never been random, they have always been strategic. Because you carry something sacred. The weight of your warfare reveals the weight of your calling. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. That ancient promise still echoes in your story. The Egyptians of your life, the fears, the addictions, the memories that tried to enslave you are being drowned in the waters of divine victory. The Red Sea you thought would be your end is about to part, and you will cross on dry ground. You will look back and realize that what once chased you has been silenced forever. Beloved, you have survived more than most know. The intensity of your trials has not been punishment. It has been proof that you are marked for impact. The storms that surrounded you were never meant to destroy. They were meant to reveal what could not be shaken. Each attack was allowed only because heaven already wrote your survival into the outcome. The enemy tried to wear you down through delay and disappointment, hoping you would surrender your assignment. But what he failed to understand is that your endurance is your weapon. You may have been wounded, but you are still dangerous because a wounded warrior who still believes is unstoppable. Every time you chose faith over fear, heaven advanced on your behalf. Every time you said, God, I still trust you, even with tears in your eyes, light pierced through another layer of darkness. The war has never been about what you lost. It's always been about what you carry. There have been nights when you felt surrounded by heaviness, when it seemed like the enemy had cornered you. But even then, angels encamped around you. They fought battles you didn't know existed. The reason you're still standing is because heaven never stopped standing guard. Chosen one, do not mistake exhaustion for defeat. The very fact that you can still feel tired means you're still alive, still standing, still fighting. You are not finished. You are fortified. What you've walked through has trained your hands for war and your heart for worship. Sometimes, the fiercest battles happen right before the greatest breakthroughs. Just before the dawn, the night is darkest. Just before the birth, the pain is sharpest. Just before the victory, the pressure is highest. That's because breakthrough always costs something, and you, beloved, have paid the price through perseverance. The unseen warfare has been long, but its purpose is eternal. God has been teaching you to rely not on your feelings, but on His faithfulness. When you couldn't sense Him, He was there. When you couldn't speak, He was listening. When you couldn't fight, He fought for you. Every arrow of accusation that was thrown at you is now being turned into testimony. Every weapon formed against you will be reshaped into a tool for your destiny. The very thing that tried to bury you will one day bow before your story. Remember this even in war. You are never alone. Heaven is not watching from afar. It is moving on your behalf. The angels that stand around you are not decoration, they are defense. You have survived every spiritual ambush because the blood of victory already covers your life. Chosen one, lift your head. The war is not your identity, it's your training ground. The struggle was real, but so is the strength it produced. You are learning to move like a warrior, calm in chaos, steadfast in storms, radiant in resilience. And when this chapter of warfare closes, you will not walk out broken. You will walk out bearing the spoils of victory, wisdom, discernment, compassion, authority. You will not merely testify that you survived. You will demonstrate that you conquered. The unseen war is not the end of your story. It is the birthplace of your power. And now, heaven whispers again, "Be still, my warrior. The battle is mine, but the victory is yours." Chosen one, when you have walked through long seasons of battle, the day comes when heaven begins to restore what the war tried to steal. You start to feel it first, a quiet strength returning to your steps, a steadiness in your spirit that wasn't there before. You have been through fire, storms, silence, and shadow, and yet here you stand. There is a crown waiting for those who refuse to give up in the valley. And now, the Spirit of God says, take back your authority. Authority is not arrogance, it is awareness. It is remembering who you are and whose you are. The enemy's greatest tactic has always been amnesia, to make you forget your divine identity, to convince you that you are powerless. But the moment you remember, the war shifts. Because authority doesn't come from position or perfection, it comes from presence. It flows from knowing that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power." That strength is not a human kind of confidence, it is divine courage. It is the posture of one who knows that they were not created to bow to fear or failure. It's the realization that you are not fighting for victory, but from victory. The cross already settled the outcome. Your role is to walk in that truth. Beloved, you have spent too long doubting your voice, shrinking from your own light. But this is the season where God commands you to rise and speak again, not with pride, but with purpose. When you open your mouth, heaven moves. When you declare truth, chains break. You are not merely a survivor of your story, you are the authority within it. The same Spirit that hovered over the waters in Genesis now hovers over your life, waiting for you to speak in alignment with heaven. When you say, "Peace, be still," storms listen. When you say, "I forgive," hell loses ground. When you say, "I choose joy," darkness trembles. Every word you speak in faith becomes a weapon of light. Chosen one, authority is not about controlling others, it is about conquering yourself. It is about standing firm when anxiety whispers and refusing to agree with lies. Authority is declaring that you will no longer live like a victim of circumstance, but as a vessel of victory. The enemy cannot inhabit a life that has remembered its power. The journey you've walked, the losses, the battles, the breaking was never random. It was training. Heaven has been building your spiritual spine. You've learned how to stand when others bowed, how to believe when logic failed, how to worship when you had nothing left. That's authority, not loudness, not perfection, but endurance. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, you reclaimed territory. Every time you prayed instead of panicking, you expanded your dominion. Every time you trusted instead of turning bitter, you stepped deeper into divine power. You were not being defeated, you were being trained to reign. And now the mantle of authority rests upon you again. Heaven has tested your humility so it could trust you with influence. God doesn't crown the proud, he crowns the proven. You have been proven in the furnace, and your authority carries the fragrance of endurance. When you walk now, you carry atmosphere. When you enter a room, peace follows you because heaven walks with you. When you pray, your words carry weight because they've been soaked in tears and truth. You are not who you were before the storm. You are someone forged by divine fire, clothed in quiet confidence, chosen one. Authority does not mean the absence of battle. It means you no longer fear the battle. It means the enemy recognizes the strength in your stance and knows he cannot shake what heaven has already secured. You have been crowned not with pride, but with purpose. The authority you carry is meant to heal, to lift, to bless. It is not a sword meant to wound. It is a light meant to guide. You will lead not by shouting, but by shining through compassion, integrity, and unwavering faith. Stand tall, beloved. Heaven has placed a crown upon your head and fire within your words. Walk in that divine confidence. Speak truth. Love deeply. Live boldly. You were never meant to hide among the fearful. You were meant to lead among the faithful. The return of your authority is the beginning of your reign, not as one who dominates, but as one who liberates. You are the vessel through which heaven will release peace into chaos, order into confusion, and faith into fear. Take your place. Chosen one. You've earned your armor. You've passed your tests. Now walk forward, clothed not in worry, but in wonder. The heavens recognize your authority. It's time you do. 2. Chosen one. The season has shifted, and so have you. The one who once trembled now walks with unshakable calm. The one who once questioned every step now moves in quiet certainty. You have risen from the ashes not as the same soul, but as a refined vessel of purpose. The journey that almost destroyed you has crowned you with wisdom. You are no longer the wounded one. You are the warrior who walks with grace. There is a majesty in resilience, a beauty in scars that tell stories of survival. Every scar on your heart is proof that hell lost and heaven won. The world may see the surface of your strength, but heaven sees the private tears that built it. You've been tempered like steel molded by fire, cooled by mercy, strengthened by surrender, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. You've lived that truth. What once felt unbearable has now become the very reason you shine. You are walking evidence that pain can be redeemed, that struggle can become sacred. Every valley you crossed has carved deeper empathy into your spirit. You no longer just carry hope, you are hope walking. Now that you've risen, others will be drawn to your light. Some will not understand how you glow without bitterness. Some will ask how you kept believing when everything crumbled. And your answer will be simple: grace carried me. For it was never your strength alone that brought you here. It was grace steady, unseen, unstoppable, chosen one. The world needs your light. In a time when hearts grow weary and faith feels faint, voices like yours matter. You don't have to preach, just be. Your endurance preaches louder than words. Your peace becomes a sermon. Your kindness becomes a healing balm to those still in the valley. And as this message reaches you, remember, what blesses you today might be the lifeline for someone else tomorrow. Every time you like, every time you share, every time you leave a word in the comments, you are not just interacting, you are igniting. You're helping light travel farther. Somewhere, someone scrolling through the chaos of life will stumble upon these words because you chose to press share. That one click can become someone's turning point. When you subscribe, You don't just join a channel, you join a movement of light bearers. You become part of a ripple that moves across screens and hearts, carrying faith to places you may never physically reach. And if your spirit feels led to give, to pour even a drop of oil into this lamp, know that your offering keeps the flame alive. It keeps messages like this reaching the broken and forgotten. It's not about numbers or donations, it's about participation in divine purpose. Imagine a single candle lighting another, then another, until the entire night glows. That's what you do each time you engage with this message. You help multiply light. You help sustain a voice that speaks to souls standing on the edge of surrender. You help remind the world that God still speaks, still heals, still moves. You've risen, chosen one, but rising is not the end, it's the beginning of reigning. You reign not through dominance but through compassion. You reign when you lift others, when you show mercy, when you love even those who wounded you. True royalty is not about thrones, it's about service. The crown you wear is invisible, but its weight is holy. Carry it with humility. Let your victories remain gentle, your confidence remain kind. Let your words build, not boast. You've seen how darkness feels. Now become the one who carries dawn wherever you go. And when you leave a comment, don't let it be casual. Write from your soul. Write the truth that rose from your pain. Someone will read your words and find courage in them. You never know who is standing one decision away from hope. Every like, every share, every word given in sincerity, they are not small things. They are seeds of eternity. Heaven multiplies even the smallest act done in love. Chosen one. You are not just a survivor of battles, you are a restorer of faith. Keep walking in this royal grace. Keep letting your light ripple outward. Your voice matters. Your faith matters. You matter. Let the world see what a risen warrior looks like, gentle but firm, humble but bold, silent yet unstoppable. The world may not know your name, but heaven does, and heaven calls you crowned, chosen one. There comes a sacred moment when what was promised begins to unfold, not in thunder, not in spectacle, but in quiet fulfillment. You start to notice that the prayers once whispered in trembling faith have begun to bloom like flowers after long winter nights. The waiting, the tears, the long ache of uncertainty, none of it was wasted. Every seed of obedience, every act of trust, every surrender in the shadows has become fruit in the light. The fulfillment of the promise is here, and it carries the fragrance of redemption. You have walked through long corridors of hope deferred. There were nights when your faith flickered like a candle in the wind, nights when you questioned whether you had misheard heaven's voice. Yet even when your belief wavered, God's word remained unshaken. His promises never expire, they only mature. You thought delay meant denial, but it meant development. Heaven was aligning everything so that when the promise came, you would be ready to carry it well. You are proof that divine timing is perfect. What once looked like delay has revealed itself as design. Heaven was never late. It was waiting until you could see with eternal eyes. Every moment of confusion became a lesson in trust. Now you understand, miracles are not rushed, they are ripened. Even now, heaven still writes through your life. Every step forward becomes another verse of grace. Every heartbeat, a reminder that purpose never sleeps. The story continues, not in thunder, but in tenderness. God doesn't close your book with an ending, He turns the page, whispering, "There is more to tell, my beloved one." The Spirit reminds us through the writings of Joshua, chapter 21, verse 45, "Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed, every one was fulfilled." And now that appointed time draws near, you can feel it in the rhythm of your days, opportunities aligning, hearts opening, peace replacing panic. The season of striving is giving way to the season of receiving. You are beginning to see glimpses of what God was building behind the veil of silence. The fulfillment doesn't always come in the way you expect. Sometimes it comes wrapped in simplicity, a conversation that restores, an opportunity that fits like a missing piece, a moment that feels like coming home. You realize that what you prayed for wasn't just about circumstances changing. It was about you changing enough to hold the promise with humility. When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he no longer needed to prove his worth. The years of pain had already done that. When Sarah laughed, holding her son, she no longer doubted whether God could do the impossible. When David finally sat upon the throne, he ruled not as the shepherd who sought power, but as the servant who knew the weight of waiting. You, too, have been shaped by the slow work of promise. Chosen one, fulfillment is not the end, it's a continuation. It's the moment heaven's design and your preparation finally meet. You're walking now into a reality that feels both brand new and strangely familiar, because your spirit has known this place all along. You prayed for this, dreamed of this, endured for this, and yet the fulfillment feels peaceful, not proud, because you've learned that it was never about the promise itself, but about the presence that carried you there. The fulfillment of God's word doesn't come to inflate you, it comes to reveal Him. That's why He waited until your heart could give Him the glory without needing the credit. He needed you to know that the blessing is safest in hands that have known brokenness. You can now hold success without letting it hold you. Carry abundance without losing your humility. Walk in authority without forgetting compassion. Look around. Chosen one. The landscape has changed. The valleys you once trudged through are now behind you, and the horizon gleams with light. You are entering a place of rest, not the absence of activity, but the presence of peace. You don't have to force what's next, you only have to flow with it. You've reached the point where faith has turned into sight. What once required belief now requires stewardship. The prayers that sustained you through storms are now shaping the way you guide others toward calm waters. You are becoming a living promise, a visible testimony of what happens when a soul refuses to give up before the dawn. There will still be challenges, but they will no longer feel like punishment, they will feel like purpose. The same grace that sustained you in the waiting will empower you in the walking. You will no longer chase doors. Doors will open in recognition of who you have become. Chosen one. This fulfillment is not fragile. What God builds cannot collapse under the weight of blessing. The foundation is too deep, the roots too strong, the covenant too sure. This is not temporary favor, it's eternal faithfulness made visible. So, breathe. This is the sound of promise arriving. Let gratitude fill your lungs. Let wonder flood your heart. The same God who promised has performed it. And as you stand in the light of completion, remember the journey was never just about getting here. It was about becoming who you are now, a living reflection of His faithfulness. Chosen one. Heaven's voice speaks once more, not as a whisper of warning, but as a declaration of completion. You have reached the threshold of a long journey, the end of a refining road that once felt endless. Yet now, standing here, you understand nothing was wasted. Every delay had direction. Every pain carried purpose. Every silence shaped strength. The author of your story never stopped writing. And now the pen of promise meets the ink of fulfillment. Look back for a moment, not with regret, but with reverence. Every storm you survived was a page turned by grace. Every tear watered a seed that has now become fruit. What once felt like endings were actually edits heaven, refining your story so that the final draft would reveal His glory through your endurance. You thought you were walking through chaos, but you were walking through construction. The rubble was just the raw material of restoration. As the prophet wrote in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." Those words breathe peace into your spirit. What God starts, He finishes. He is not a man that He should forget, nor a builder who abandons his design halfway through. If He began something in your life, a dream, a calling, a promise, He will see it to completion. The same hand that wrote your beginning now signs your continuation with love. Chosen one, you've come far from who you were. You no longer walk with uncertainty, but with understanding. The wounds that once made you question His goodness have become testimonies of His faithfulness. You carry peace now, not because life is perfect, but because your heart finally trusts the one who holds it. There was a time you thought being chosen meant being comfortable. Now you know it means being called higher. It means carrying weight others cannot see, loving deeper than you are loved, standing firm when others scatter. But it also means carrying a light the world desperately needs, a light refined through suffering, steady through storms, and radiant through surrender. You've become the living echo of grace. The same power that once sustained you through weakness now radiates through you as strength. The same voice that said, "Hold on," now says, "Go forth." You are stepping not into restlessness, but into rest, not inactivity, but alignment. You are moving at the rhythm of divine purpose now. Heaven has not only healed you, it has handed you keys. Keys to peace, to purpose, to wisdom. You will find that the doors that once resisted you now open easily. Not because they changed, but because you did. The authority you carry now is quiet but unquestionable. You've become like water, soft enough to flow around resistance, strong enough to shape stone. There is a quiet glory on your life, one that doesn't need noise to prove its worth. The evidence of God's work in you is not in applause, but in peace. You no longer chase outcomes, you cultivate obedience. You no longer measure success by speed, but by surrender. Chosen one. Completion doesn't mean the story ends, it means the story continues without fear. It means you've learned how to walk with God, not just in moments of revelation, but in the mundane rhythm of every day. It means you've become fluent in the language of grace, trusting that even when you can't see the full picture, you know the painter. The journey ahead will still have valleys, but you'll enter them differently now. You've learned that valleys are not punishments, but passages. Mountains no longer intimidate you because you've learned that even peaks require prayer. You no longer fear the unknown because you've discovered that God is already there. Look around you. The same ground that once felt barren now blooms with evidence of His promise. The same horizon that once frightened you now invites you. The storm clouds that once threatened have turned into rivers of renewal. The promise didn't just come to pass, it came to life. Chosen one, you are the testimony. You are the proof that God finishes what He starts. You are the story that will inspire others to keep believing when everything looks lost. You are the living evidence that grace doesn't give up halfway. So, walk gently now. The journey doesn't end here, it deepens. You have crossed from striving into stillness, from wondering into knowing, from surviving into shining. The same God who whispered, "I am not done" at your lowest moment, now declares, "Well done." And as you breathe in this holy peace, know that heaven celebrates, not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. You stayed, you trusted, you grew, and now, in the quiet triumph of grace, you stand as a living monument to His unending work, a masterpiece still in motion, beautifully complete and yet still becoming. Chosen one, if these words have found you, it's not by chance. Heaven always delivers reminders right on time, somewhere between your pain and your purpose. God placed this message so you would know He's not done with you. Every heartbeat you still carry is evidence that your story continues. You have walked through fire, silence, and seasons of waiting, yet grace has followed you through them all. The fact that you are still here means heaven still has plans for you. You are living proof that broken doesn't mean beyond repair, and waiting doesn't mean forgotten. Before you go, pause for a moment. Let gratitude rise in you. You've just completed a journey of 17 revelations, 17 waves of divine encouragement designed to remind you that you are chosen, refined, and deeply loved. Now, take that light and let it ripple outward. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe. It's not just interaction, it's participation in a calling. You're helping this message reach someone who's standing where you once stood, searching for a sign that heaven still sees them. You're helping grace travel through the noise of the world and land softly on another heart in need. And when you comment, let it be more than a word, let it be a declaration. Write what you felt, what you learned, what part of this journey spoke to your soul. Your story might become the spark that reignites someone else's faith. Words heal when they're shared. You are part of something far greater than a moment. You are part of a movement, a flow of light traveling from one chosen one to another. A chain of courage linking hearts across the world. If you've ever wondered whether your small act matters, know this, it does. A simple share becomes a seed of hope. A single comment becomes a reminder to another that they're not alone. A quiet subscription becomes a silent yes to more messages of healing, purpose, and truth. So take this light, beloved, carry it forward. Let these words echo beyond the screen, into your conversations, your prayers, your choices. Keep shining, keep believing, keep becoming, because heaven has not written the end, it has written to be continued.